Welcome to the Westside Personalized Podcast, where real educators share their classroom-tested, learner-approved personalization practices. I'm your host, Andrew Easton. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion and are able to find a few valuable takeaways from the podcast. And so without further ado, let's go to the pod! Hey, welcome back to the pod. I'm excited today to be joined by some of my former students, some of my faves, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure you're allowed to have faves, but we can say that. So really, let's do some little introductions and some backstory here, I guess. So now, big-time seniors, right? And so we're sort of like 4 years removed from English 9 honors class. So let's take a quick minute to go around and do a brief introduction, tell you a little bit about these individuals and how they're kind of tied into the school here. So, Allie, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Aaliyah White. I am executive producer of our Warrior Television program, and I am the president or co-president of FBLA.
Okay.
I'm Haley Tierra. I am the vice president of student council. I'm also involved with DECA, FBLA, and Beta Club.
Alright, I'm Stephanie Lund. I'm the president of Student Council, and I'm also the president of Warrior Planet, our environmental club here at Westside.
Cool. And so, not surprised that here we are 4 years later, and they're basically running everything around this place because I had such a great experience working with them. My second year here, first year of the English 9 honors course. And so, yeah, I guess I'm going to give a little context and then let them sort of talk. Previously, before I came to Westside, for 4 years I got into personalized learning, but we didn't have one-to-one laptops, and so it was a little bit difficult to put any sort of materials online because we only had about 10 computers available to students at a time. Year one here at Westside, we weren't really personalizing district-wide at all yet, and so I was really bummed that I couldn't do something that I'd previously been exposed to. And so then year two kind of got the go-ahead to start to personalize the class. In that fall semester, when I didn't have the three of you in class, it went like, not because you weren't in there, it went really well. Like, it was good. Like, I spun some things online, but I used a lot of video content that I'd found online, and so I felt like I wanted to kind of spend a lot of time getting ready for the new semester when you get a whole new batch of students in. And so I spent most of my winter break with a camera, and I'm going to the library and sitting like a super nerd, like in these little quiet spaces, recording myself, putting these lessons together. And we get into the class, and the very first unit, and pretty much within the first few days, roll out this personalized learning unit. And it was the worst personalized learning unit that I've ever put together. Like, it was just this, I wasn't like a monumental flop, but it certainly wasn't ideal. And so I was grateful, and this is kind of the whole point of our pod here today, is to talk a little bit about student voice, and that's really important. So that said, as the three of you stepped into my class, can you kind of reminisce? We'll do like that senior moment where you think back to like freshman times.
Much simpler.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. But like just kind of what you remember about the course, and particularly early on, I guess. And it doesn't have to be flattering stuff, by the way. Like you like super honest.
Okay, well, I actually really like the idea of being able to do stuff on my own. So when you introduced personalized learning, I was ready to roll with it. I was in Montessori as a preschooler and as a kindergartner, and that is very personalized. Do it at your own pace. So I was ecstatic to know that we were going to do at least one unit with that.
I mean, I started out, I was really confused because I'd never heard of it before, so when I was first you're like, oh, you're just going to do whatever you want. I was like, you want me to do what? Like, 5 minutes?
Right.
So it was kind of like a learning curve for me, but once I understood the point of it and how it worked, I was like, oh, okay, he's not crazy, this is actually a good thing.
That's arguable.
That is probably subject, for sure, at least. How do you remember back to those days?
I don't know. I've always loved English class. That's always been my favorite. And so it just kind of clicks for me. And so I loved it anyway. And I like the personalized learning because it allowed me to have one-on-one time with my teacher. If we were working on papers or something, I could sit down in class and work with you rather than have a lesson and then have to find time outside. So I thought that was very helpful.
Well, and in the midst of all of that, I felt like it was the worst unit that I ever put together that was personalized. So, but I was very grateful, and really the biggest reason I wanted to ask you guys all to chat today is that you helped me better understand what students needed to make this thing run. And it was kind of a different, facet of all that we all got a chance to kind of work together in. So, do you want to talk a little bit about just the honest conversations. So,
We're both freshmen. We just walked right in there and was just like, well, here's the problem.
So grateful for that though. Like, and it's cool though. Yeah, it's so. Go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty opinionated. Yeah, I think for me it was like the videos, because like I would watch them and I was like, I'm trying to get the information, but I had so much secondhand embarrassment from watching like you do this that like they were just so cringeworthy.
So true.
They were so awkward.
They were so awkward. I was watching and I was like, oh, like, and then you'd be in the library and somebody would walk behind and I was like, I was like just watching this random guy like talking to a computer. Yeah, so it was hard to like get past that. But then I remember like going up to you and being like, it's gotta go. Like, you gotta make it better. Like, they're kind of like low key trash.
Yeah, and that's so true though. That's like how I look back on it now, and it was me sitting in a library, like, you know, public library,
quality
right?
camera.
Yeah, something very basic, and it's just like 20 minutes with a lot of ums and just talking straight into the camera with an occasional graphic that I felt was cool, and I would open with like 30 seconds of a song I liked.
Yep.
And I was like, these are legit. They're not legit at all. Yeah, right. Just like the iMovie opener, and then the rest was garbage. Like, it just wasn't very good. But I appreciated that though, and so I guess we can kind of spin that into. At that point in time, then I was like, well, clearly these have to be better. Like, we just can't keep doing the same thing. And so I decided I was really fortunate that Matt Razgorshak, who,
I love Raz.
good dude, ran our journalism department at the time. And the journalism department at Westside, nationally, you know, recognized and highly decorated and those kind of things. And so I was like talking to him and said, hey, my videos are terrible. Can I just like survey your class and just hang out and watch? You know, on instructional days only. It wasn't like I was in here for work days and things like that. I can do that on my own time. But he was nice enough to invite me in. And so it was a really interesting experience. And so we're going to kick it to you. To like teach Allie in class, because this happened often, where we're like, that would happen, and then we'd like walk to class and sit here like taking notes at the same time. And now Allie kind of runs this whole journalism department. So yeah, talk about just, I don't know, we got a chance to really collaborate on video stuff for a while, like right now even. Like,
yeah,
this is...
for sure. So my freshman year, I signed up for the Intro to Video and Web class just kind of by accident. I didn't really know what it was, and so I walk in it was second semester, so the first day. And it's a room of 13 other boys, all upperclassmen. So here I am, this freshman, like, I still haven't figured out high school. And I walked in, and it was very intimidating. But I don't know. I gotta hold the camera, I guess, which was something new. But yeah, as Easton said, we would come up, and he ended up taking the class with us. So there was only one section at the time of Intro to Video and Web, and so he would come up, and then we'd have to like work on projects. And since I was the only freshman and the only girl, those guys were not gonna ask me to, hey, do you want to come in our group? Like, the common sense thing to do. And so I was always working by myself, and so was Easton. So we kind of like worked together to try to figure things out, and we eventually got there. We got somewhere because he's making videos and I'm leading the class now. But
right, that's so cool. And it was awesome last year too, when I did the gamification unit where it was an alternate reality game, and made a whole like, because it was a pretend high school, East Side, which was to sort of parallel it being here, obviously. And so we did an East Side Wired featured story, and so Allie had a chance to kind of like be the MC for that little live reporter, I guess, as we were interviewing teachers and just making up some fake news, honestly.
Easton comes in and crashes our class all the time more and more.
So that was a big piece, because now, I mean, you guys, I've shown, because I got a chance to show you some of the videos. They got a lot better.
Much better. Like,
they were really good.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is like pretty quality stuff. Like, I was really like genuinely surprised, but please, like, good. And I was like, okay, like, I had hope for like the like freshmen and sophomores that they would like actually like learn something through it, and like, because like before it was just kind of like, you were like, you got the information, but you were like, wow, like, did I spend 20 minutes like getting that? Like, you were like, you almost wanted a note sheet, where like this was more like, I feel like it got like the kids that weren't as like motivated, like more motivated, because it was more like game-ified.
Yeah, well, and it's another way to learn. So like, if it's better than like sitting in a classroom and trying. And if you wanted to, like, if you did teach in the classroom and you just didn't get it, like, there's that option for you later. And
Yeah, it's like double back to stuff and not have to watch another 20 minutes to do so.
Nobody wants to edit a 30-minute video, so he makes them a little bit shorter.
Yeah, now they're like 5, which would be my
That's
advice to
perfect.
everybody. Yeah,
Yes.
to try to just do micro learning and chunk that stuff into smaller like portions is ideal. But but it took. I think that whole process took. You having the courage, and so thank you. I'm just going to say a million times over for saying that, right? As a freshman, like you said, kind of bold move to go like, hey, this needs to get done. And you were spot on, right? And I think sometimes, too, as educators, that like, we just get our feelings hurt. We're like, well, you shut up, Stefan. You don't know what you're talking about. And like, but I don't know, it helped. It helped so much, and hopefully, like you said, got a chance.
Yeah.
Your speaking up and exercising your voice changed that experience forever for like anyone that I've worked with, and that's why we're sitting here today too. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Thanks. And in addition to that, I also had this whole like idea where, okay, people hate lectures, like, so let's just flip this whole thing to where there's stuff online and you can talk to me and we can have a conversation like you were talking about earlier, back and forth, and then there won't ever be anyone up at the front just as a talking head. And then...
All right, so you just asked me the question again.
Yeah. So another like teachable moment for me from Student Voice that semester was this thought that, I mean, in my perspective, if I had a video and if I had written materials for you to read about it, and if I was available for the full duration of the class period for you to ask questions, that could be the way in which you go about educating yourself, and that direct instruction never needs to be a part of the equation. And then we had a chance to chat.
All right, so I think I was just so used to that lecture-style classroom because that's what I had been doing for 10 years of my education, and I just really didn't know how to do it all on my own. While I liked the idea, I just didn't like not having any instruction, and I thought it was more effective for you to stand up and just talk at us, for me to get all of the material. And honestly, sitting in class and like having to do it all on my own kind of felt like a waste of time because I was just sitting there and people were like doing whatever they wanted to.
It was like a big jump. Like, we went from having structured lectures to then nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and didn't teachers speak, right? That's going from being teacher-centric to student-centric, right?
And it was crazy because I just didn't understand how that worked.
Right.
And it was difficult for me to just like know exactly what to do in order to succeed in the class.
And I think sometimes too, even as other teachers have, and myself included, have kind of like played around with that model, like to think, like some teachers will get to that place and they'll stand there and go, wait, so I don't do anything. Like if students aren't asking me questions and maybe you don't have that rapport yet, you are just sort of standing there the whole time. And so you talked about like, yeah, maybe wanting, like, how do we get lecture built back into this? And I was like, well, I have a set period of time and I don't want to require people to be anywhere at any given time for any specific thing. And what this led to the next year, again, sorry that this didn't necessarily factor immediately back into what was going on, was that I started to take like a pre-test or a quiz. You'd figure out like, hey, I'm good at simile, I'm good at metaphor, I'm not very good at symbolism and allegory, what? and then we would give that information back to students, and then on their calendar for week 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, there would be a set day where direct instruction for allegory is going to happen. And if you know then, like, I have no idea and I prefer to be lectured, I'm going to schedule that into the grand scheme of how I go about, like, this entire 4-week period. You can kind of bank on that and organize everything around it now.
Why in the world did we not have that when I was a freshman?
Well, because there wasn't a Haley yet that had come along and said, like, hey, you know what you need to do. Like, and it was transformative for what happened then, because students would come in, set a goal, get to work, and then I would check with everybody, and about 5 to 10 minutes in the class period, I'd go, hey, allegory time, anyone, and it was just completely voluntary. And so people would stand up, move across, come over, like learn. That had to be like 5 to 8 minutes. I mean, it was super micro learning, quick opportunity, but then you could extend it because I was available the rest of the class period. I would never, ever have thought to even do that had it not been for, again, big props. You stand up and speak it up and going, this is something that I need to make a part of this experience in here for it to work. I just had never thought that would be a choice. I never thought I'd have a student go, lecture please.
Yeah. I really like that idea though, because like personalized learning takes a lot of self-motivation. Like you have 40 minutes where you like designated in your schedule for English, so like you're supposed to work on English, but like it took me up to senior year to like completely use my open mods to get stuff done. And
Honestly.
so I think like it took time. Like you have to figure out that I actually need to be working these 40 minutes, otherwise the 4 weeks is going to be up and I'm going to be so far behind. That's what I remember. And so I like that you have like those different like sessions, because then it also like keeps you on track and it brings you back in a little bit to the teaching land.
Yeah, and I feel like that's it's a developed skill set. You know, I feel like personally I learned a lot of stuff in college when I had autonomy for the first time. And I love Westside because you get an opportunity through open mods and hopefully as personalized learning scales up to get to that earlier. And it's really cool, and why I'm passionate about the position I'm in with my like job and function here in the district is to say like, let's start this in kindergarten, and you know, and what does it look like there versus sixth grade versus middle school, you know, and all the way through. And so it's been pretty cool. So any kind of closing, I don't know, thoughts on personalization, or kind of, because you know, here's what I'd say, in all of the roles and capacities that you guys sort of serve in your respective interests, you're all student leaders, and I think that's a big goal of personalization too, is to put, again, the student at the center of how certain things function. Shoot, you taught class the other day.
I mean, yeah, so our the WTV program is very much like personalized learning, and we like give them direction, and I like teach them how to do certain things. But mainly I tell them, okay, here's what needs to be filmed, here's when it needs to be done by, and the rest is up to them. And so it's super interesting to like watch, I guess now from my perspective, and then as a senior, having gone through it both in this class but then also in English, how like to watch some people who are super motivated and others who like even when given the chance they like don't do it, but they realize that and then work later. And so I don't know, it's been interesting to watch and find out for myself. I feel like a teacher.
Yeah, because they're choosing their topic, they're choosing like how they want to portray like that particular content, and there's a lot of, like you said, just sort of customization based upon the individual's interests and aesthetic sensibility. Whoa.
That was
right?
big words right there.
There you go. I gotta do a little English and sometimes. And then I go to that place. I don't know, do you guys see that in what you're like working with I don't know, Suko and Decca? And...
Well, like, what you're saying about starting in kindergarten, I think that'd be awesome. I feel like that would just bring creativity back into the classroom, because as you get older, that piece of education just, like, fizzles
Once
out.
recess is gone, I mean,
You're just out of luck. But also, I'm surprised that I said that my freshman year, that I would prefer instruction, because now being a senior, like, I would prefer personalized learning where I could just have time to do what I needed to do. And, like, when I'm in large group and I'm just, like, sitting there being talked at the whole time, it drives me nuts. And I would so much rather just, like, watch this 5 minutes of instruction and then do what I need to do.
Well, I think, too, that's the way the world works anymore, right? That's how I, like, sometimes preface as I'm talking about personalized learning is that, you know what, one time my garbage disposal went out. What'd I do? Bought one, I read the instructions, and I watched a couple YouTube videos. When I got stuck, I phoned a friend. Like, that's really the process. And if school could work that way, I mean, why not, right? Like, I don't know. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Closing thoughts?
For me, like, I liked personalized learning because, like, and I see it with, like, student council and, like, all of that, is that, like, it's more of a respect thing than anything else. Like, being, like, talked at, like, feels almost like a lack of respect. They're like, okay, like, this is when your assignment's due, like, we're gonna do this today, and it's very, like, in, like, order, and it's very, like, specified of what exactly you need to do, and it's almost like, they're like, okay, have I ever left elementary school? Like, is that, like, really what's happening? Where, like, personalized learning is, like, okay, like, I trust you and, like, believe in you enough that you can do this on your own, and, like, you'll come to me for help. And it was more like, oh, okay, like, oh, like, they actually, like, care about me as a person, like, I can do this. And that's one of the reasons that I really liked personalized learning, and I think it's, like, really beneficial, because, like, we see it in student council all the time. Like, if you, like, hound somebody for something and you're, like continually checking up on them, and you're like, how are you doing? Like, is everything going right? And they're always like, get off my back, like, you don't trust me. And so if you're like, okay, like this is when it needs to be done, and like have the freedom to like choose what they want to do for it, they're all like, oh, okay, and then they almost like take more responsibility than they probably would have if I would have just kept like nitpicking them on it. So I think like just like the freedom is like encourages students like to believe in themselves, because it seems like the teacher believes in them. So that's one of the reasons I think it's like really important to have.
That brings up like two things that are great to close on. Like when we do our trainings for all this personalized learning, like why are we doing this? It's for student agency, which is a lot of the things that you're kind of talking about there, right? That it's better to develop a sense of I believe that I have the impact to change my future by the decisions I'm making in this moment, and that I'm cognitively learning about what's going, like my own process, regardless of what like content I'm going through at the time. So I'm in English class, but what I'm working on is a process to get better at things, regardless whether it's garbage disposals or Fahrenheit 451. And so I'll close on this then too. At my previous school, we had 80-minute class periods. It's so much easier to get to know students.
That's what everyone who transfers from a different school says. Oh, it's so much easier when you have so much time.
And it just, that relationship piece really matters, and 35 minutes here is really tough. And so by being able to open things up, like you talked about, and get to know people for who they are and have honest conversations and collaboration, it's really cool. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to share this with teachers across the district and whoever gets a chance to watch, because I really believe that student voice is important, and I'm thankful that you guys shared yours, and that we get a chance to even do that right now, right? So that's pretty cool. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on another great episode. For more information or to contact us directly, you can email our team at personalized.learning@westside66.net. As always, thanks for tuning in and learning from the Westside Personalized Podcast.